Hello, everybody. Welcome to the High Noon Show with your host, Fearless Floyd. About 2 hours and 15 minutes late, of course. I'm having some afternoon coffee. So, if you're late, of course, welcome to the show. I'm going to dive into a whole bunch of little topics here. So let me get everything set up. Discuss. Let's see, I'll get in that in a second. Let's address these idiots first because this is funny. As you all know, I was freebasing cocaine in high school. Okay, so that's back in '79 and '80. Yeah, back when I didn't even know what I was doing. The only reason I found out what I was doing is because Richard Pryor set himself on fire, and freebasing became a household name or a household word. So yeah, that's how I found out what I was doing. And then, of course, the '80s came in, and the CIA allegedly brought in crack to the ghettos and barrios of LA, incorporated it into mainstream. So anyway, let's dive over here. And the First Lady, Jill Biden, who is not Hunter Biden's biological mother, okay, decries cruel treatment towards Hunter. I love my son. Let's watch this disingenuous plea for mercy. Blow this up.
Hunter Biden is in the spotlight again today, this time inside a Los Angeles courtroom, later where he will face 9 federal charges for not paying $1.4 million in taxes. He could face up to 17 years in prison. Prosecutors say Hunter Biden was living a wildly extravagant lifestyle. That's not exactly breaking news. It was going on for years while cheating Uncle Sam. Yesterday, Hunter Biden, with that shocking stunt, crashing his own contempt resolution hearing, storming into the Oversight Committee proceedings and later storming out. 2 committees that day passed the resolution holding him in contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena. A full House vote is likely coming this next week. First Lady Jill Biden with reaction.
I think what they are doing to Hunter is cruel. And I'm really proud of how Hunter has rebuilt his life after addiction. I love my son.
Doesn't wipe away the $1.4 million you owe in taxes, though. A new column with the headline, Hunter Biden's crashing of Congress cracked reality and is making his family look like a circus. The New York Post cover calling Hunter a son of anarchy. Republican Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona, member of both those committees that were meeting simultaneously on this issue yesterday, Judiciary and Oversight, also co-chair of the Border Security Caucus. Boy, we could talk for hours with what you are doing. But you were in the room, you were in the hearing room as all of this was playing out. What is the fallout very next day today?
Well, I think what I've come to the conclusion that the Democrats want us to not call him at all, but they keep saying they want him to testify publicly. And I'm almost to the point where I say, you want him to testify publicly? Let's have him come in and testify. No privileges, no scope. We'll just do it. And guess what? He'll take the fifth probably 200 times because we have a lot to ask him. But what a way to show contempt, Harris. I mean, he first went out and had the press conference the same time he was supposed to be giving the deposition. And then he comes into the hearing to ostensibly say, here I am to testify. And yet when somebody on our committee starts asking him questions directly, boom, he is up and he is out.
Yeah, that first time he defied it was all the way back in December, and then he shows up just before the deadline, and there he is. Look, quick question for you, because there was a time when a show of hands was asked by one of the Democrats, who in here wants to hear from Hunter Biden? Why didn't Republicans raise their hands? And why not just just start the process right then and there before the whole country with 2 committees watching.
Well, I was probably in the other committee when that would have happened. I would have raised my hand. I want to hear from Hunter seriously. I think all my colleagues do as well. But that was just gamesmanship on the part of the Democrats. I mean, the Democrats, you spent 8 hours yesterday, and they didn't really want to talk about Hunter Biden and what was contempt, where he actually got a subpoena and didn't come. They just wanted to distract from it, talk about everything else.
Well, the White House didn't want to talk about it either. Our own Peter Doocy pressed the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, on Hunter's surprise appearance. Here it is.
And Hunter Biden on Capitol Hill today. How big of a headache is that for you?
It was yesterday.
Hunter Biden is a private citizen. He is not a member of the White House, as you know, and I just don't have anything else to share.
But the last time he was on the Hill, he said the president was certainly familiar with what his son was going to say.
I did say that, and what I'm saying today.
That President Biden does not help him with his business deals, but he does help him skirt congressional subpoenas.
That is not even true. That is a jump. I don't have anything else to share.
Your reaction?
Well, I laugh, and he violated it. He's going to be held in contempt, and he should be.
Hunter Biden. There you go. All right. I mentioned the border security, that you're co-chair of that committee, too. Lawmakers clearly are split along party lines at the first impeachment hearing for Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. This.
Secretary Mayorkas is the architect of the devastation that we have witnessed for nearly 3 years. Secretary Mayorkas has repeatedly lied to the American people and to the United States Congress. Our investigation uncovered more than 100 instances where Secretary Mayorkas misled the public.
Republicans recently rolled out their impeachment proceedings against Secretary like a pre-planned, predetermined political stunt it is. Republicans want to throw political red meat to their base and keep that campaign cash coming.
First of all, Congressman Biggs, we got to revisit this idea of what a stunt is, because Democrats definitely know what it is because they pulled one yesterday. House Republicans are hoping to get rid of Mayorkas. They're blaming him and the president's policies for the raging Biden border crisis. And I go back to you. And what's happening with the impeachment?
Well, so they're going to take a vote, I think, next week to refer that to the whole House. The whole House will then vote, and then it'll come to the I don't think it's going to come to the Judiciary Committee. I think we'll start a hearing at that point on the floor of the House.
Are you anticipating that there will be Democrats who would vote with you? I mean, if you think about it, Mayorkas would be a good scapegoat potentially for them, because I don't think anything's going to change with or without him. But
well, they should. If they really care about the country, they would, but I don't think they will. I think it's going to be a party line a vote, Harris.
Does getting rid of him help move forward in any way fixing the border for your side of the political aisle?
It does in some instances, because hopefully we would get somebody in there who doesn't lie to us. I mean, this Secretary Mayorkas lies to Congress, misleads the public, and we need somebody who at least confess what you're doing, that you're emasculating.
All right. That congressman just called out Mayorkas lying to Congress. That's a federal felony, and said he did it 100 times. There it is in the public. He made a complaint. Nobody's acting upon it. This is what our country looks like now, folks. This is what it looks like. It is the federal government is out of control. There is nobody controlling the federal government. They are acting unconstitutional, unethical, immoral, unlawful, illegal. I don't need to go on. I mean, you're looking at pictures of it right here. And I'm going to segue into, this was a perfect video to segue into my next topic, of course, the border crisis. So we're going to finish this video.
And not following the law.
Look, I know you're also busy in hearings, so I'm going to share this with you. Congresswoman Kamek of Florida was on with me earlier this week and said she was told by Mayorkas in an open hearing, so there were other people around, you won't like the person who comes next. That sounds almost like a threat, so we don't know what it means, but it's interesting. Congressman Biggs, thank you very much. I look forward to the next time.
Hey,
Telling you folks, it's pretty scary out there. Let's see. I have a video debuting here in 35 minutes on YouTube. And no, not that one. Oh, sure. I thought I had it queued up. This was from today. There you go. $21 trillion fraud. And, Jesus Christ, folks, I can't break stuff down any simpler than what I do, but I had to do it again and go back and revet more instruments. And yeah. So go watch this video later, whenever. I cover the new, not the new, I cover influencers because Phil Godlewski, he's the one who started this, I think. And, I showed that he was bamboozled and, yeah. I went through the documents and showed you everything. So, recently, Sarah Westall, who else jumped on that bandwagon? I did. Yeah. And they're coming out and they're putting this shit out there and yeah, no, it's 100% bullshit. Sorry, folks. All right. Here's my segue into the border crisis. I want to play this for you. And of course, I subscribe to the Center for Immigration Studies, which is a Texas-based think tank regarding immigration policy. All right. And they put out some awesome freaking videos. Give them a thumbs up. I'm obviously one of those 20 viewers in here. I'm going to watch it again. We are actually going to watch it again. Now, what this is dealing with is the interviewer is interviewing an assistant attorney general from Florida regarding their state grand jury. Okay. In Florida, they have a state grand jury. And then on the local level, they also have grand juries. So the state grand juries isn't so much for criminal indictments or informations. It's mainly for an investigatory and policy advisory committee. It's made up of, all the governmental officials across the state. Not all of them, but that's the pool that they choose from. There you go. So let's get started with this video. It's going to explain everything to you guys. That sucks. Closed captions unavailable, but here we go.
We simply cannot allow people to pour into the United States undetected, undocumented, unchecked.
And complete the dang fence.
This bill that we will sign today is not a revolutionary bill. Cast down your bucket where you are.
We come from France.
And I am, adamantly against illegal immigrants.
They're coming in by the thousands, just unbelievable.
A wall is an immorality.
Who are you rooting for?
Those masters of the universe are at it again.
You maniac! You blew it up!
Welcome to Parsing Immigration Policy, the podcast of the Center for Immigration Studies. I'm Jessica Vaughn, Director of Policy Studies at the Center, subbing this week for Mark Krikorian. I'll be speaking with Rich Manti, who is special counsel and statewide prosecutor with the Florida Office of the Attorney General. Rich was one of the speakers at our second annual Conference on Combating Human Trafficking, which we co-sponsored with the University of Houston's Border Trade Institute, and it took place last month in Houston. Rich, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This month is National Human Trafficking Prevention Month, so I thought it would be an ideal time to speak with Rich about a year-long investigation he's been leading along with the grand jury in Central Florida. Among the topics that the grand jury looked into was the trafficking of illegal foreign migrants into Florida, and most concerning the trafficking of children. So I want to talk about the results of the investigation and especially the recommendations that the grand jury came up with to deal with this problem, which I think are really helpful for other states that are grappling with this. But first, a little bit of background. Rich, can you tell us why was the grand jury impaneled and what can it do? Because this is kind of a novel approach on the immigration issue.
Yeah, Florida has a particular statute. Not a lot of other states have them, but in Florida, there are local grand juries. Every local circuit, there are 20 of those in Florida, has its own prosecutor elected that they have grand juries that report for duty in those circuits. But Florida also has the statewide grand jury, and the legal advisors to the statewide grand jury are assistant statewide prosecutors like myself. It's created by statute, and the mechanism is the governor can request the impanelment of a statewide grand jury, and there have only ever been 23 in the history of the state. But the Supreme Court is who actually impanels the statewide grand jury. The Supreme Court signs off on whether there's going to be one. They decide where it's going to be venued. They decide what the parameters are for its investigation. Typically, statewide grand juries are impaneled to, investigate and issue reports about lengthy, complex subjects. The one prior to this current one that we're talking about today investigated all the school districts in the state of Florida in light of the Parkland shooting and had a lot of recommendations that came out of that. A statewide grand jury can indict and has indicted people, but that is not its primary function. Primary function is to make recommendations for changes either to the law or to current policies or refer matters for further investigation by the local grand juries or prosecutors as the need be. In this case, the Supreme Court gave us our marching orders, told us where we were going to convene, gave us a set of questions to try to answer, and so we went ahead and tried to do that.
Okay. So some of the problems that the grand jury looked at included human smuggling, unaccompanied minors, and more. Why is this a problem for Florida? And what's been going on that inspired this?
One of the events that sort of sparked a lot of notice to the problem, now the problem's been going on for a while just as it has everywhere, but Florida, of course, has a large population of people who are here from other countries, both legally and illegally. The best data we've gotten so far seems to indicate that there are about 1 million illegals here, and there are also quite a few. Of course, Florida has a very large Cuban population, as everybody knows. They've received a lot of Haitian refugees and other things. So Florida has a large population of immigrants. I think we're number 3 in the country, behind Texas and California. So knowing that, what got a lot of heat was people in Jacksonville actually started noticing, about a 5-month period of time, something like 75 flights that would come into some airports, particularly Jacksonville. They came in at like 2 a.m. They were unannounced largely. They were apparently a lot of children getting off the planes, jumping on buses and departing for parts unknown. People got interested and curious about what was going on. They were worried about that this was, human trafficking. Our office, the statewide prosecutor's office, is very active in dealing with human trafficking. The Attorney General here has an entire unit dedicated to that. They're very active and proactive about trying to go after that. Obviously, we have a lot of tourist industries, things of that nature that make human trafficking sort of give it a lot more camouflage. We have Super Bowls, we have Disney parks, we have all kinds of things that tend to provide a lot of cover if people want to engage in that kind of activity, unfortunately. That being one of the genesis events sort of sparked the Supreme Court to sort of, make its order. We do have a problem with human trafficking in this state, just like everybody else does. But ours is complicated by the fact that we have these additional folks from additional places who, in many cases are victimized by bad actors. We do have a gang problem here in Florida. That's something else our office handles. We do racketeering and gang prosecutions on a regular basis. So the idea is that you put prosecutors to help advise grand juries so that they can understand both the civil problem and the assistance to victims of trafficking that we want to provide, as well as see if we can't go about trying to put a dent in some of the criminal activity that associates and affiliates itself with this. It hurts Florida, it hurts people in Florida, and it hurts Florida's industries to have this happen. And so we want to do everything we can to combat it.
So what did you all find out about what was behind all of these flights? I mean, certainly everyone is aware of what's been going on at the border and the influx of illegal migrants, but
not everyone.
The narrative associated with that is often that, this is a humanitarian situation, people are fleeing oppression, or people are coming here to join family members. What's the link to criminal activity that was found here?
In a nutshell, it's the criminal syndicates and organizations. One of the things that we were instructed to look into was transnational criminal organizations. We know them by cartels. We know them by various names, but that's it. And those are the large profit centers and profit drivers and industry drivers for this illegal alien smuggling factory. In a nutshell, I should say that the grand jury is actually still ongoing. We're impaneled. They extended through April, so they're technically still in session. They issued 5 reports so far, including recommendations for several statutory changes, things like that. And, the investigation remains ongoing. But as far as what's been publicly released, the 5th presentment sort of lays out in pretty thorough detail, I think, what they found as it relates to what's causing this. There are U.S. government policies, because immigration, of course, is almost exclusively reserved to the federal province under the Constitution, which make it easier for international criminal bad guys and bad girls to exploit this situation. In a nutshell, they advertise in foreign countries that you can come to the United States and be much more economically successful, which is, of course, false because our laws don't actually permit any kind of asylum claims for that reason.
Right. We have a legal immigration system, but, it's not open to just anybody who wants to pick up and move here. We have,
right.
a process.
And these are not refugees we're talking about. Refugees is kind of a whole category of people unto itself. Refugees have a very specific standard they have to meet, and refugees have a particular status. When it comes to the vast majority of people coming in, number one, what the grand jury found and published was that better than 2/3 of them crossing, especially the southern border right now, actually enter the country illegally. Their first act coming to the country is the commission of a crime, and that is they cross somewhere illegally. So that's number one.
And that is a crime. I think a lot of our listeners know, despite what some say, it is illegal to cross illegally.
Absolutely is. And if you've done it before, it's actually a much more serious crime.
Yes.
Which a lot of these folks, it turns out, actually, that's sometimes what happens. Sometimes they do that at the direction of criminal gangs, but what happens is these gangs advertise in these foreign countries. People get the wrong idea. They make this horrific migratory trek up through several countries. Usually they start in South America. They have to traverse dangerous jungle. They have to traverse mountains. They have to traverse desert. Some of these folks are taking children with them or sending children on their own, which if any U.S. parent did that to their child, said, hey, why don't you go walk across the Appalachian Mountains or across the Sonoran Desert and go find somebody to go live with, we put them in jail immediately. So this is activity that's going on, and these cartels charge pretty much every step along the way. They charge money to traverse their territory. They charge money to traverse to the border. They charge money to be smuggled. They require people to do all kinds of unspeakable things who can't give them that money. And so what this does is it fuels an entire cottage industry of folks who put people in debt bondage under the false premise of you can just migrate to the United States. This is abetted by certain, grand jury found certain federal policies that basically sort of invite this and make it more possible and more likely, particularly when it comes to the transport of children. Basically, if you can get to the southern border, the U.S. government will complete the delivery by flying you wherever in the country you want to go and guaranteeing you can stay here sometimes for years, while you await an asylum claim that you are 90% likely to lose because you have no actual ground.
Right.
And they do that for people who cross legally or illegally, which is sort of the real issue that the jury identified was there are so many people crossing illegally who are simply released into the United States rather than being detained, which is what the law actually says is supposed to happen. Florida actually sued the federal government over some of this, over the parole plus alternative to detention policy, which I believe Florida won.
Yeah. Not that you'd know looking at the numbers lately, but
it's currently on appeal in the 11th Circuit. But what happens is typically, even if the government agency is told by a federal court you can't do something, what they do is they rename their program, and that's the grand jury found. They just renamed it something else, and now they're doing essentially the same activity under a different sort of name.
let's just repeat that a sec. So federal courts have found that the current policies are not permissible, improper, and they've just been renamed. And that's why we have a continuation and even an increase in people crossing the border illegally, taking advantage of the system under the auspices of, and protection of these criminal enterprises.
Yep. The federal court, I think it was Judge Wetherell in the Northern District of Florida, made findings just along those lines and said, you didn't follow a proper process for doing this. This process does not comport with the actual law. And so you need to go back and redo this. And rather than actually doing that, DHS and HHS in particular have essentially continued the behavior, although they call it something different every time they get caught doing it. You know, Texas has sued them over it. I believe Arizona at one point sued them over it. There's a lawsuit in Texas right now where 21 states are a party to it, challenging these programs. You know, I think that concluded in September or October, and they're waiting on the judge to rule on that particular lawsuit. So yeah, there are a number of federal courts that have weighed in on this and have said this is a process that doesn't comport with U.S. law. But nonetheless, the process continues. So what you have is a lot of children in particular placed in very vulnerable situations, but also the people who are brought here are in many times in debt bondage, and this is where the criminal organizations come in. They owe people, you know, they or their families owe these criminal organizations who have presence here in the country. They're everywhere. MS-13 is everywhere. And they have to do things, make money to repay the cost of their travel. Sometimes that involves just working and trying to make money, and that work is often done illegally, because when you're just here immediately, you don't automatically get authorization to work, yet people do work, and the grand jury discovered that. If you look at the earnings suspense file, which the Social Security Administration maintains, you can get a good feel for how big that problem is. It's something like $2 trillion or $3 trillion right now as a result of that. So people are working illegally. People are sending money back across the border that would normally remain in the country, but that's now leaving our economy and going overseas. And a lot of times that's going to criminal organizations. They are paying people, bribing people, threatening people, or forcing people to send them money and then collecting it on the other end. So they're profiting on both ends of it. They profit on people getting here in the first place. They profit off people when they are here. And they really don't care whether you get to stay for 6 or 7 years while your court case winds on. And then on top of that, of course, the DHS rules for deportation priority basically leave almost everyone here. I think the number of ICE arrests and ICE actual deportations or removals, according to their latest reports, less than 2% of the people who actually get here are actually removed from the country, even though they are court ordered to be gone. There are something like somewhere between 400,000 and 500,000 people on what they call the non-detained docket who are convicted felons.
Yeah, yeah.
So people are, the grand jury pointed out, look, you've got an awful lot of people coming in who shouldn't be coming in, and you've got almost, relatively speaking, compared to, prior years, almost nobody actually leaving, even if they're supposed to be leaving. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, you have situations where, and in particular when it comes to the children being trafficked and exploited, you have a department, which is HHS and ORR, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, that releases them to people who are almost completely unvetted on the flimsiest of bases and they cease to basically care at that point. Once the idea is, and all the policy memos and all the speeches and everything else like that are on efficient processing of people as opposed to actual vetting of places that they're being processed to.
I want to talk about definitely some of the specific policies that are implicated or that the grand jury found were problematic. And if you could maybe explain like how this translates to trafficking, and are there any examples of this in Florida? And then, considering that so many of the people who've ended up in this predicament are kids, why that's a kind of a special situation too.
Sure. The grand jury found in its first and second presentments, really, that a lot of people who were being trafficked, smuggled into Florida, whether it's for sex purposes or labor purposes, our laws weren't adequately addressing that because our laws were premised upon the idea that the federal government wouldn't be effectively complicit in those sorts of operations. So one of the first things they did was they recommended that Florida beef up its human smuggling law. And the legislature actually did that in their last session. They went not quite as far as the grand jury recommended, but they did change the law. There have been, in the past couple of months, 3 or 4 arrests of individuals under that new smuggling law just went into effect in October. So we're waiting to see how that comes out. But basically now what you're able to do is address the situation where we have folks bringing in people, for example, in one instance, I think in Hernando County, Florida Highway Patrol interdicted a van where there were 5 or 6 people in it. The driver was illegal. He knew everybody in the van was illegal. There was a child with them, and they were just on their way. He was knowingly transporting individuals who had come into the country illegally. They were there only legally, and they were all supposedly going to illegally work at work sites in the state of Florida. So they've been arrested. They've been charged. And interestingly enough, the consulate from the state of Mexico came out with a statement that fraudulently and falsely described the actual circumstances of the arrest and have been fairly quiet since the facts actually came out. So that case remains pending as far as I know.
Yeah, that was interesting to see the government of Mexico defend a smuggler who was himself here illegally, had been deported before, and was bringing people, including a kid, across state lines for a reason other than work.
Yeah, you'd have to ask them their reasons for feeling to do that. But, the consulate officer in Orlando came out fairly strongly publicly saying that he didn't like our law. Mexico, of course, has problems with these criminal organizations and these cartels, which effectively dominate northern Mexico. Probably the northern third of Mexico isn't really much under the government's control. It's under cartel control. There have been gunfights. They invaded and took over part of Texas's sovereign territory, Fronton Island, had to be forcibly evicted by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
This helps explain why we don't get much assistance from Mexico generally on this issue. Yeah. That's one of the reasons. We'll talk about another one later, but
yeah, one of the things the grand jury said was, perhaps you ought to get your own house in order before you start worrying about how Florida is trying to deal with the mess that you've created, helped create.
And decidedly behavior.
And I did a video on that they produced, this Center for Immigration Studies, regarding that island. The story behind that was that the Texas Department of Public Safety, the Texas Rangers Division, has this elite like special forces tactical squad, and they actually entered the island, took it over in a gunfight, and reclaimed it as Texas territory because there was a minor dispute with Mexico once they did this. However, they have to maintain presence on that island 24/7 to continue to keep it free of illegal immigrants, drug cartel, terrorists, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the story behind that. Great video if y'all would like to go watch that and see, what these, look, there's bad actors in every group. So just because there are bad cops, there are badly trained cops, there are cops who follow policy and not law and really don't understand the difference and don't even care about the difference. So you have to overlook those and look at the ones who are actually on the front lines that are fighting every day, you know, the places that you don't want to go, that you're scared to go, fearful. You won't go at night. Well, guess what? They go in there 24/7, 365. Christmas morning, it doesn't matter. 12:01, New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. You know, all that gunfire, fireworks going off. They get a call, they got to go. Imagine what that's like. So all the law enforcement who are on the front lines, hey man, you have my 100% total support. And if I could come down there and help you, I would. If you invited me, I would come. Absolutely. So I do support law enforcement, but legal, lawful, constitutional, moral, ethical, and follow the law, and nobody's above the law. And it's of my opinion that anyone, this should be just a static law. You know, I should contact ALEC and give this to them, that any oath taker in a position of authority in government who violates that oath and violates the law, it's a minimum 10-year sentence. Minimum. Flat. No parole. Now, how much corruption do you think we would see then? If the penalties were just a little bit stiffer for the people that we allow to govern us, don't you think it should be the opposite? That they should be like getting the death penalty for sending somebody to death row that was totally innocent? Absolutely.
Undiplomatic, and I know that, having been a diplomat before, and just, you know, commenting on another country's laws in that way is pretty surprising.
It was rather bold, but you know, that's their business. They can say what they want to say, I guess. So that was one of the things the grand jury did very first, was to recognize that there is in fact a problem and make a recommendation to do it. And to their credit, I think the legislature acted in the best way they could at the time. The grand jury also found out, and most disturbingly, I think, based upon the reporting, that a lot of these people who are being trafficked are in fact children. Now, there are some who aren't really children, and just to sort of showcase the laxity of the vetting policies and processes of ORR, we had one who claimed to be 16, came in as a supposedly unaccompanied minor from Honduras. Well, in fact, he was 24. ORR missed the vetting process entirely on him, transported him to Jacksonville, straight to a sponsor whom he promptly murdered. And when I say murdered, he butchered this man. He stabbed him over 70 times. He beat him half to death with a chair, all on video. And so he's currently serving a prison term.
And when you see a picture of him, it's hard to imagine how he was not flagged as a minor imposter rather than an actual kid.
The problem is that, essentially, as the grand jury has described, when someone shows up at the border, especially if they show up without ID, Border Patrol doesn't have a lot of authority to do anything other than kind of take them at their word as to who they are, where they're from, and how old they are. The only way to get around some of that is to maybe roll their fingerprints. The problem is, if they don't have a criminal record in this country, that's essentially useless as far as doing anything, because a lot of countries either don't have those records or don't make them available to the United States.
Yeah, good point.
So you see what you see down there at the border with all this border litter where people abandon IDs and abandon these fake passports and things that got them through Mexico because they would rather not be found out for who they really are. That's assuming they're even caught at the border at all, and not one of the almost a million now, or is it 750,000 known gotaways every year. That's a sort of separate issue. As far as the kids go, yeah, they are terribly vetted as far as that goes. The sponsors are even less vetted, and ORR had to admit, and has admitted publicly, that a significant portion, and it turns out probably more than 50% of the people that they place these children with are in fact not in the country legally themselves. In addition to that, 2/3 of them are not the children's parents. They are either unrelated or some sort of, supposed relation, but of course nobody actually does a DNA test to make sure of that. These children are taken and sent to various locations around the country where a contracted organization, these are NGOs, and the NGOs are problematic because a lot of the NGOs help these people get here in the first place by, encouraging or enticing them to come through this nasty, brutal jungle and over these rivers, but they don't bother to tell people, oh yeah, you're going to get shot at by cartels. You might get eaten by an alligator. They do go so far as to help hand out rape kits. The jury found the IOM, the International Office of Migration, actually hands out kits to women because they know they're going to be raped, and they encourage that they make the trip anyway, which is bizarre thinking.
Yeah, I thought that was a really strong part of the report, pointing out that irony that these NGOs are encouraging people and helping people make this dangerous, traumatic, sometimes fatal journey without truth in advertising as to what's involved and how they could possibly end up on the other end. And are doing this funded by whom?
Well, the IOM is funded in large part by this country through the Department of State.
Right. So with our tax dollars.
Yes, that is their single largest donor. The NGOs are often sort of either sponsored by or sort of co-opt or adopt the name of a religious organization. For example, some of the larger ones that operate nationally are HIAS, which is the Hebrew International Aid Society, or Catholic Charities, or Lutheran Services. Not all of them operate everywhere. In Florida, just to again highlight the issue with the unaccompanied minors, one of the places that operates here is Jewish Family Services. They operate a facility in which a child was sent. Turns out he was actually 17, but when he got here, he had disclosed that he was epileptic to Border Patrol doctor, but he had denied that he was epileptic to some of the people at the center. However, of course, they have all this information in their UAC portal. The case manager, turns out, didn't actually read all the documentation before she went ahead and uploaded because she was busy. This is what the sheriff's office investigation found and what the grand jury's report disclosed. And that child died of an epileptic seizure because the doctor who examined him here in Florida wasn't told that he might have epilepsy. So that is another issue that has come up. But as far as the children themselves too, who they are being sent to is the largest problem that the grand jury commented on. The vetting process for what's called sponsors is absurd and lax. It's often done by people who have, it's intentionally done by people who have no law enforcement training whatsoever and access to zero law enforcement databases whatsoever. These NGOs make it a point not to hire any cops or ex-cops or retired cops or anything like that.
People who ask questions.
Right.
Or might be skeptical about a claim.
Right. They hire social workers, which, okay. But what happens is they operate essentially as a quick and dirty pass-through. In some cases, these NGOs, particularly some of the ones in the pop-up shelters in California, they have these children for as few as 14 days. They supposedly run a thorough, complete, total background check on the child and the supposed sponsor that they're going to, and then they send the child and they drop the child. The problem is that these people are unvetted. They don't do criminal background checks because they can't. And in many cases, they don't even, they of course don't do DNA testing to verify claims. But there were a litany of cases documented by the grand jury where people were sent to addresses like strip clubs, or that multiple children were sponsored by multiple individuals, all supposedly living in the same house. One guy in Texas, I think they said, had somewhere around 100 children sent to him. So the process is fraught with all kinds of shortcomings. And again, the emphasis is on speedily discharging these children. And the real problem, one of the biggest problems, is that once they place this child, ORR and HHS say, well, it's no longer legally our problem. We have no custody and no authority. So once they're gone, they're gone. They don't follow up with these children. They supposedly make an effort to make 3 phone calls. And if someone answers, great. And if no one answers, okay. Either way, the result is the same. ORR shakes the dust from its shoes and walks away.
That is astounding. The lack of sense of responsibility for what happens to the kids that have been in their custody.
And the grand jury pointed out that appears to actually be in violation of federal law. And the Senate actually has pointed that out to them not once, but at least twice. And they persist in adhering to that doctrine. So yeah, these children are placed with, in more than 2/3 of the cases, someone who is not their parent in a place that they have never been, where they may or may not speak the language. And what happened in Florida is that when you do that, legally speaking, these children are in limbo. They have no parent or legal guardian. No court has found that any of these people are legal guardians. They have no status. No one can make them go to school. No one can sign off on medical treatment for them. So the children are at risk, and they have nobody to call.
Mm-hmm. And how does that compare with the law in Florida on, say, foster care placement?
Foster care is you have a court involved from the get-go. You have the Department of Children and Families making home visits. You have law enforcement agencies running background checks. To be a foster parent in Florida is another one of the things grand jury pointed out. The process is exacting. It's not perfect, and the foster care system is not the best place for all children, but it's better than what ORR does. It's about as difficult to adopt a pet as it is to get an unaccompanied minor child from ORR.
So it's a huge double standard for kids coming in as illegal unaccompanied minors.
Amazingly, like the grand jury actually pointed out, they said, look, we don't think that just because the U.S. government agency brought them here and they were foreign born, that they should be less protected than anybody else. You asked about some of the recommendations they made. The third presentment, they said, look, we think that people who get custody of these children here in our state, we're giving you the most precious thing our state has, and that's a child. You have a child, you should have to go to court, and you should have to say, Judge, I want to adopt this child, or Judge, I want to be named the child's legal guardian. If you don't do that, you shouldn't have that child. That at least gives the child some legal status, some legal recourse, and it involves the courts. At a minimum, someone is looking out for that child. So that recommendation remains pending.
Yeah,
that one is out there, but that was one of the big ones that the grand jury made as far as that goes. Because what happens is these folks don't, a lot of the sponsors, they're, if they're not, especially if they're not here legally, don't really have any interest in seeking out a court. And many times that leads to situations where they are now able to exploit this child freely, whether it's put them in trafficking, make them work, whatever, to help pay off or pay rent or pay off smuggling debts or all those things. That subjects these children to essentially completely at the whim of whoever they're stuck with. Several hundred of them every year run away from sponsorships altogether. They end up in our Florida dependent care system. They get, picked up as runaways. They wind up in our foster care and dependency system anyway. There's at least 400 every year on a sort of a rotating basis.
For at least 400 formerly unaccompanied kids who were placed with non-relative sponsors who run away and end up getting picked up in the Florida child welfare system because the system is so dysfunctional.
Right. And some would argue those are the lucky ones because at least now somebody's looking out for them. So yeah, there are several hundred every year. So yes, it is a very real event in Florida. There have been, all kinds of stories, even in the regular media, of children who are exploited for labor purposes. And in particular in Florida, that's a concern because our building trades, our agricultural trades, our hospitality trades, three of the big industries in Florida are have been historically problematic sometimes for that very sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw there was a sentencing just recently of a woman, or maybe it was a couple, who were busted for providing illegal workers in the construction industry. And as part of that, they had evaded $9 million in taxes and insurance premiums for injured workers.
A case out of Key West that handled a lot of that. They were providing illegal temp workers to a lot of different places and agencies, knowing that they were illegal, providing them phony documents and everything like that. Federal case, federal prosecution out of the Key West area down there.
So can I ask you something?
Sure.
How do you think it is that the NGOs who are playing a role in this are able to rationalize this system? So they're key players in a system that is allowing kids to be smuggled and trafficked into the United States and be trafficked for forced labor or who end up in abusive situations once they're here. Why are they participants in this? Why are they not raising some kind of alarms? What are they saying about this?
Well, the grand jury actually brought several of the not only the case managers, the worker level people in, as they disclosed in the report, but they addressed it to some of the CEOs. Now in Florida, and they're not all operating. Some of the most egregious stuff goes on in these pop-up shelters like in Texas and California, where you get a single source contract to a vendor for 6 months, they make $100 million a month. And then the facility shuts down and everybody, all the roaches scatter into the rocks and come out later and get another single source contract. Cherokee Federal was one that ran a facility like that in Pomona. Cherokee Federal doesn't operate in Florida. The big three in Florida are Catholic Charities, Lutheran Services, and Jewish Family Services. But what do they get out of it? The grand jury found these folks are making hundreds of millions of dollars through government contracts to do this kind of work. They are paid, it's something like $30,000 or $40,000, I think, per child when you add it all up. But ORR has a $2.1 billion budget every year. These NGOs get it, and the CEOs of these NGOs are all clocking well into the six figures.
And of course, I've covered this with some other live shows dealing with CPS issues. Definitely America's Mom, Erica Kilday. We've covered that. Definitely with Rebecca Prestwich. We've covered it. So this is an issue because these wayward children are being trafficked. They're being sold. And I don't know if any of you followed it, but they just popped a Houston rapper who was, caught one of these panhandlers that was pregnant and had her locked up in his garage for 5 years until she could finally break away free. So the horrors are just, man, it's just so sad that this is going on. Let's finish this video up because I want to jump into some other stuff.
And there was the grand jury remarked, there was one of them who said, look, my organization, my NGO could not operate without this money. And so I will do what ORR tells me to do, even if it's contrary to Florida law.
Whoa.
Flat out said that he would, that's the way it was. They pointed out, the grand jury pointed out, they said, look, we told them you're screwing things up. We told them your processes are problematic. And they said, Now the response from ORR, there used to be a requirement in federal law that all these child homes, for example, placement homes, be licensed. Well, there's not currently a single one in the state of Florida with a valid license because Florida took action to say, look, if you're not going to comply with Florida law, we're not going to issue you a license for this. ORR's response was to propose a rule, which among other things says that that licensing requirement, you can now just be okayed by us. They have actually dispensed with the licensing requirement through addendums to their contracts with these NGOs so that they can continue to operate in Florida without having.
That's pretty crazy, the corruption's going on there. Uh-oh. What's happened? Lose my connection. All right. Sorry about that. Technical difficulty. All right. Back to doing what I was doing. All right. I did this video yesterday. Basically, why the RV, Rocky Dinar Hopium, should get you high as a kite. And what I did is went in and did the numbers. Found several articles that gave me a rough construction estimate on what it takes to build a city in Iraq, and just roughly multiplied that out, and then did the exchange rate to what it could possibly be, and ran the numbers again. And yeah, you go watch that video. It's pretty interesting. Or 21 trillion dollar fraud just came out. And this is coming out tomorrow. Zombie deer, chronic wasting disease explained. So I'll break it all down for you guys, exactly what's going on with that. So if you eat any type of venison, you want to watch that video. And of course, the $21 trillion fraud, I covered that earlier. Oh, there's the zombie deer. For those of you who have seen this or have not seen this, this is page 1, treason against the state, pursuant to the Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 22. This is going out today. Abbott's already went out. Everybody's getting theirs. I'm going to pull the trigger on the email too as well. Treason against the state. Treason against the state shall consist only in levying war against it or adhering to its enemies, giving them aid and comfort, and no person shall be convicted of treason except on the testimony of 2 witnesses to the same overt act, or on confession in open court. See Texas Constitution, Article 1, Section 22. As I said, 2 Texans, equitable acknowledgement, affirmation, and acceptance of oaths of office in and for the United States, of conflicts of interest, criminal acts of treason, treason-related offense, witness statements and prayers for relief which may be granted as a stated claim, signed, sealed, and delivered. And of course, it goes into this stuff. Boom, 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 boom. Breaks it all down. Here's actual videos showing the treasonous acts or misprision of treason, rebellion or insurrection, seditious conspiracy, advocating to overthrow of government. You know, I don't know what you'd call it, because it looks to me like these sanctuary city governments are being overrun, almost overthrown. So you're seeing that in New York now, that they're kicking the students out of the classrooms, out of the schools, so they can house illegal immigrants. How do you think that's going to work? Do you think they're going to vote a Democrat back in after that? Oh yeah, those people are going to come out with pitchforks. Yeah, and the torches and some tar and some feathers, and they're going to want to hold somebody accountable. Watch. It's going to get ugly in sanctuary cities, because the current populace, the inhabitants, the citizens, the rightful, legal, lawful citizens, they're going to rebel against this, and they're going to hold their government officials accountable. As they should, who should be holding the Biden administration accountable, and they're not. And it all goes back to the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party is controlled by the Obamas and the Clintons, and they're not trying to hear it. They want this whole satanic pedophilia, adrenochrome, child trafficking scenario to continue for the end of time. If y'all haven't watched the video of all the Jews when that underground tunnel was found, how they just like went bananas tearing the place up, trying to get the cops away from the tunnel as they had been discovered. Here in Texas, we have what's called law parties. A person is criminally responsible as a party to an offense if the offense is committed by his own conduct, by the conduct of another for which he is criminally responsible, or by both. Each party to an offense may be charged with the commission of the offense. All traditional distinctions between accomplices and principals are abolished by this section, and each party to an offense may be charged and convicted without alleging that he acted as a principal or accomplice. Criminal responsibility for conduct of another. A person is criminally responsible for an offense committed by the conduct of another if, acting with the kind of culpability required for the offense, he causes or aids an innocent or non-responsible person to engage in conduct prohibited by the definition of the offense. Law parties. As we continue, acting with the intent to promote or assist the commission of the offense, he solicits, encourages, directs, aids, or attempts to aid the other person to commit the offense, or having a legal duty to prevent the commission of the offense, and acting with the intent to promote or assist its commission, he or she fails to make a reasonable effort to prevent the commission of the offense. Sure sounds a lot like what's going on at the border to me. Testimony of two witnesses needed to prove treason. Okay. Witness of treasonous acts. Here's the witnesses. See my gold foil seal for my notary. Here's some additional videos to support all the allegations and claims made therein. And for treasonous actors, I ask that a capias be issued immediately. Here's all the authorities to do so. And the treasonous actors pursuant to the sovereignty of the great state of Texas. The below photos are of treasonous actors in which every Texas law enforcement agency, department, bureau, officer, deputy, trooper, etc. issue capias for these treasonous actors to be arrested and taken into custody with no bond upon their presence on and in the great state of Texas. Therein, complainants demand that probable cause exists for drafting of capias, arrest/bench warrants for these below treasonous parties levying war against the great state of Texas. Somebody's got to call a spade when the spade needs to be called a spade. Here you go. Wanted. Treason against the state of Texas. Y'all recognize these I can't even comment to what they are. Wanted for treason against the state of Texas. And as you see, okay, I don't know what party affiliation she has, whether she's a Republican or a Democrat. She's there because of her financial knowledge. He's definitely a Republican. So as you see, I pull no political punches or political favoritism. If you're freaking corrupt, you're corrupt. And there should be a lot more faces on this. But he's a major problem in the United States Senate. Okay, Ashley Judd was going to run against him, and she was going to smoke his ass. And then she pulled out. Why? Yeah, they showed her some videos that she didn't want to see. Wanted for treason against the state of Texas. And these are cabinet members for the Biden administration. Your Secretary of Commerce right there. Wanted for treason against the state of Texas. Wanted for treason against the state of Texas. Wanted for treason against the state of Texas. And then I say my prayers. Wherefore, premises considered and all presumptions rebutted, oath of office is acknowledged, affirmed, and accepted of in and for all duly elected officials of the United States of America and states and territories thereto, including but not limited to law enforcement, military, National Guard, state militias, etc., concerning criminal acts of treason and treason-related offenses. This American judicially notices all the above described persons that America is watching under God with liberty and justice for all. Not only are your reputations at stake in this matter, but your very own political lives are now under the microscope of all Texans and Americans, as we will know the truth self-evident by your actions, whether the great state of Texas is compromised with treasonous actors, corrupting Texas and America from the inside out. In all things, these Americans pray honorable recipients uphold all dignity, courage, integrity, ethics, morals, and standards of all Texans and Americans and hold accountable those treasonous actors who have clearly and unequivocally failed to honor their oaths of office and expel those treasonous actors from the political arena and introduce them to the criminal justice arena so that the American people can instill the full faith and credit in our pursuit of happiness. So be it, so be it, so be it. Amen. There you go. Mainstream media news outlets and alternative news outlets. Bam! There you go. Wanted to give you a handful of topics that was on my mind. All right. Let's see. Anything y'all got today? Y'all want to talk about in the news or anything like that? Yeah, let me address this this clown over here real quick. Okay. Got to address this, folks. Somehow this clown got my email address, and now my email is just, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 emails a day from this moron, David Lester Straight. Last chance to make a difference to help Bonnie. All right. Subject, last chance to make a difference. Join us now. Be dear valued supporter. At Freeman Bot, we believe in the power of community and the strength of helping one another in times of need. Okay, well, I'll address that here in a second. This is why we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to those of you who have already contributed to the habeas documents to support Bonnie. Your actions have not gone unnoticed, and we will commend you for your generosity and empathy. Do y'all want to play Bonnie's prayer service? Replay of the follow-up? So, habeas documents for Bonnie. Well, now you're in Fearless Floyd territory, David Lester Straight, right? As a token of our appreciation, we have a special offer for you. Starting January 16th and throughout the entire month of January, we're thrilled to offer you exclusive access to the David Straight Mastermind Program, absolutely free. It's our way of saying thank you for standing by Bonnie's side because she's in prison because she listened to David Lester Straight. Sorry, Bonnie. You did almost 5 years of probation successfully. And then you met David Straight. And he said he could make it all go away. So you fired your attorneys and you quit going to probation and you started filing a whole bunch of David Lester Straight paperwork into your court files, which I've clearly documented in my 4-part series. And then her probation got revoked. And she went back to court and the judge gave her 5 years in prison. So she's doing that little old 5 years on the layaway plan. That's what we describe that here in Texas. So If she makes parole, she's up next November. Okay. If she makes parole, then she's got to do the remainder of that 5-year prison sentence, another 5 years on parole. All right. Now, I know a little bit something about habeas documents because I've got 3 binders right here full of stuff for my own habeas that I'm getting ready to do. And if you're going to file a pro se habeas corpus writ, this is the book that you want. Georgetown Law Journal Annual Review of Criminal Procedure. You see, it's got my big ass name on it. This is from 2007. And it is, what did that say? TDCJ approved. Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Yeah, I love those folks. They're so nice. Anyway, yeah. This will give you everything you need. It's all federal law, but it's a great, if you know how to research with West's key code in the digest, seamlessly transition. This is a wonderful book, especially when you start preparing for the next level of your habeas, because you're going to do the state. You need to get prepared for your federal as well as your certiorari in the United States Supreme Court. This is your baby. I've read this book, I don't know, God dog, how many times. This is actually, I had a 2005 copy that just, man, I gave it away. It was all highlighted, and yeah, this one's not highlighted at all. I actually sent this one out. Sent it out to an attorney who held on to it for me. That's how I got a lot of this stuff back out. I got free legal mail. So I sent it to my friend who was an attorney, and she took it and went put it in storage. So that's how all this goes. This one didn't get stamped. Parole paperwork. I was studying about annual review. All right. Here. So let me get back over there for this the grifter scammer. All right. It's a way of saying thank you for standing by Bonnie's side. Okay. To claim your free access, all you need to do is send proof of mailing for your habeas documents to info@freemanbot.com. Rest assured, your login details will be sent to you one day before the program starts on the 15th of January, which is Martin Luther King Day holiday. But that's not all. As a bonus, we have included a replay of Bonnie's incredible event, a follow-up video, and links to habeas in case you missed anything. We want you to have the full experience and make the most of this opportunity. All right. Join the mastermind. David Straight, he'll send you straight to prison. David Lester, straight to prison. There you go. And of course, it's going to want me to do yeah. I'm not allowed in. Let me see if my blocker blocked it. Reload. Oh. So I would love to read the habeas documents. So let's go over that real quick. All right. Bonnie Thomas, who is not Bonnie Straight. So when he says Bonnie Straight, she is not Bonnie Straight. If she was Bonnie Straight, she would be processed into the criminal justice system as Bonnie Straight, because that would be her lawfully or legally married name, correct? She's Bonnie Thomas. Go look her up. I'll show it to her. Show it to you guys. So they're not legally married. They're not even common law married. So y'all get that straight. Let's get some straight facts instead of some crooked David Straight lies. All right. Now, what is Bonnie Thomas's charge? It all stems from her divorce suit. Okay. But it goes even further than that. Bonnie's father apparently was an alcoholic, in and out of jail there in, was it Burleson, I believe? Burleson County. And he died in their jail, in the county jail. Bonnie sued the county and won a significant settlement. But the ding-dong Bonnie Thomas stuck around in Burleson County. And I'm sure she's been just all high and mighty with her nose in the air because she beat him and they killed her father instead of getting the hell out of Dodge and go and living life happily ever after and not have to worry about any kind of retaliation or revenge. But, of course, as we know about Bonnie Thomas, she's not the brightest bulb in the box, as I will continue. So, while she's going through this divorce proceeding and child custody, okay, there was an issue of threats about her now ex-husband possessing firearms and Bonnie possessing firearms, okay? So, Bonnie was required by the court to surrender all her firearms to her attorney who would turn them in. Bonnie didn't do that. She was caught later unlawfully carrying of a firearm in a public place, which was a courthouse. And it wasn't even her day to be at court. For some reason, out of the blue, she tries to enter a court with a gun. Okay, boom. So she picks up that charge, right? She's still doing the divorce proceedings. So they take that gun away from her. Now the judge is pissed off at her because she violated a court order. Surrender all your firearms. Bitch, where'd you get that gun? I told you to give them all up. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Right? And try to carry it in a courthouse? Oh, I forgot it was in my purse. Really? You forgot you had a gun going in the courthouse. Pocket knife? I get that. But a gun? All right. Like I said, we're talking about bright bulbs and dim bulbs. The straights, if you want to talk about scamming, grifting, and when I say the straights, I mean Bonnie Straight, because obviously she's right in the sidecar with him, riding this, whatever they're doing. Okay? They're flim flam team. And I'm going to get into this. So let me explain some more about Bonnie and Bonnie's legal matters. If you don't believe me, please go Google Floyd Pleasant Tarvin IV. Go to the Travis County District Clerk's office. Go to their website portal. Look up my name. Go to Walker County. Go to Harris County. Yeah. Then you can go get on Pacer and see all the federal stuff I did. Yeah, I know what the hell I'm talking about. So, little old Bonnie, now she's got 2 trials going on. She's got a divorce child custody case going on, and now she has the criminal unlawful carry of a firearm in a public place. Well, she hired her attorneys and, they did all the free trial, due diligence, and wah, 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 wah. And Bonnie and her attorneys worked out an agreement with the state. So they had a meeting of the minds. They made offers and counteroffers, and they came to an agreement. The agreement was that Bonnie was going to do 5 years of community supervision with all the stipulations attached, and I go over those in the video. So all she had to do was complete all the stipulations for the agreement that she made with the state. Well, almost like 4 years and 6 or 8 months of that 5-year probation term, Bonnie met David Lester Straight and went sideways. I've shown it in my 4-part video. Exactly, almost to the day, you can tell she met David Lester Straight because all her paperwork changed. She terminated her attorneys and went pro se. The only thing I can tell you is she quit reporting to probation because that's what David told her to do. Oh, we can file all this and it'll go away. I'm telling you people the truth. Know what I got in my hand? Here's my right hand. I swear and affirm, tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. Boom, right there. I'm telling you guys the truth. You know anybody out there following David Lester Straight and eating up this freaking chum? Because they're sharks. They're gonna eat everybody up. You better get them hip to what's going on. So let's move on a little bit more about this legal matter, okay? And all these prayers and these habeas documents, are these support letters? Is that what he's asking for? I'm sure that's what he's asking for. And not only for the habeas, he's going to submit those with the habeas as character, and they have no application for a habeas because a habeas review is of the record, not what people think about you. Okay? If you're going to do a parole package to submit for parole review, yeah, that's what you would want, a bunch of support letters, but not habeas documents. Habeas in Texas for a felony offense is governed by the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 1107. And if you want to challenge a misdemeanor conviction in Texas, it's 1109, which doesn't provide a procedure. It just allows you to challenge a misdemeanor conviction via habeas. How do I know? I did it. How much was my bond in that case? A misdemeanor, 30 years old, that I got $100 fine and 180 days in jail, which of course it was run CC with a prison sentence, so that was a wash. $1 million bond, baby. Yes, I'm $1 million man. That's why I was sitting in prison. They gave me that bond. So obviously they didn't want me out of prison. And it took me almost 18 months to get it reduced to $250,000. I was just ready to write up a rubber check, an IOU. So let's get back to the legal matters for Bonnie Thomas. Not straight. Not straight at all. So she meets David Lester Straight. She quits reporting for probation, quits paying her probation fees, probably doesn't complete all the stipulations, fires her attorneys, goes back into court filing all this, what I'm going to call sovereign citizen paperwork, exactly what it is, and got her little probation revoked. got brought back before the court. And because she had already pled guilty to the charge 5 years prior to get the probation, she had already pled guilty. So now she's at the mercy of the judge. The judge can give her whatever sentence he wants within the sentencing guidelines again. Okay. 3rd-degree felony, 2 to 10. He could have popped her with 10 years. Instead, he hit her right in the middle at 5. So, boom, off she goes to the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Correctional Institutions Division, and she now resides on the hobby unit. If you'd like to write her, all you have to do is put TDCJ inmate search in Google, and it pop up the portal for you to search for her. Bonnie Thomas on the hobby unit. That's who you're looking for. Now, as we progress in the legal realm of Bonnie Thomas, and I'm breaking this down for you, where we're going with this habeas. Okay. The only, okay, let me say it for a third time. The only ground of error that is acceptable and prosecutable in a habeas proceeding is what? It can either be prosecutorial misconduct, however you want to label it, okay, because that would mean the prosecutor reneged on the bargain or agreement that you and the state agreed upon and signed to. And if the state never reneged on any of their agreement that you agreed to, you're SOL, baby. Denied with prejudice. Beat it. Get the hell out of here. Now, ineffective assistance of counsel pursuant to Strickland versus Washington or Chronic versus U.S. are not applicable. In Strickland, the holding of the United States Supreme Court is, had my attorney done something or not done something, the result of the trial or the conviction would have a different outcome. That's the Strickland holding. It's called a two-pronged holding. Then there's Chronic. Chronic was, the court reasoned and opined that the attorney gave as much representation as a potted plant. Absolutely. You want me to repeat that? The attorney gave representation as much as a potted plant because the attorney slept through the case. There was a Texas case where that happened. Chronic was the issue, and the attorney slept through the case, slept through the trial, and they did not find the attorney ineffective. Believe it or not. I know. It's astonishing. So that would be ineffective assistance of counsel. However, who was Bonnie's counsel? David Lester Straight. Got a problem there, Bonnie Thomas. Can't really use that one, can you? Well, there you go. SOL. So, is Bonnie Thomas's Article 1107 petition for writ of habeas corpus, is it going anywhere? Anywhere. Anywhere. These are all my documents, my certified and exemplified documents from my case. Brief of the bonds, Elvis's paperwork that he used to get off probation. Oh yeah, I've got all that. I told you guys I fight everything. I know everybody. Y'all thought I was kidding. Yeah, I thought I had an application printed out somewhere. I think I did, but find it readily. No. Article 1107, writ habeas corpus. There's actually a form that you're required to use. And you complete that form. And she doesn't have a leg to stand on. Not one. So if anybody's out there has any communication with Bonnie Strait, all right, you can tell her right now that if she plans on filing a state Article 1107 petition for writ or application for petition or writ of habeas corpus, she's wasting her time. And don't forget about that equitable tolling on the federal level. Hope you know about that, because if you don't know about that, but you're going to get disregarded on the federal level as well. They're going to deny it with prejudice for failure to state a claim for which relief may be granted. Rule 12B, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure or Criminal Procedure. Yeah. You're out of there, bro. You're out of there. This is just a joke. Help Bonnie. You cannot help Bonnie. Nobody can help Bonnie except Bonnie. Why do I say that? Because if Bonnie wants out on parole, Bonnie's got to act like she wants out on parole and do everything that she needs to do to get out on parole. Well, fuck, who should y'all be talking to about parole? Maybe y'all should talk to an expert. Well, who's an expert on Texas parole, Floyd? I think I answered my own question with my question. Wow, David and Bonnie, I could help you guys out a lot. A lot. Or I could ruin everything for you with one letter, one phone call. Because I'm an expert and I know how to run the system. David Strait. Stop scamming people, David Strait and Bonnie Thomas. Okay? I'm putting the warning out there. Stop scamming these people, bro. I'm going to shut y'all down and you ain't going to like it. You want your wife in administrative segregation buried? You want to communicate with her ever again? I can stop all of that. Like that, bro. Try me. Try Fearless Floyd. Come on. I dare you, David Lester Strait. You ain't going to come up against me. I'm going to win because I'm an expert. Yeah. I know what's going on, bro. So you keep trying. You keep putting it out there. All right. I know who to send letters to too, bro. I know how to do support campaigns too, bro. Okay. How would you like all your victims that you've taken for a ride to start sending support letters to the regional parole division for the hobby unit? In Austin to the parole board, David. Huh? Yeah. Keep playing, stealing people's money and leading them down a road to nowhere and calling them American state nationals. So everyone out there, this is a scam. All of this is a scam. Bonnie's prayer service, follow-up, habeas documents. You know, why don't you see direct appeal? Because you can't direct appeal it. because the prosecutor lived up to their bargain. Habeas, same thing. This woman is going nowhere except in prison. And she keeps fucking around with David Lester Straight. They're going to lock her ass up and she's going to be in administrative segregation. Yeah. Like that. It takes one letter with the right information in it, and boom, that'll happen. The right phone call, the right communication. Yeah, David, quit scamming people. Go away, retire. You've made a ton of money off people. Stop. Quit your lying. Quit your scamming. You're grifting. Man, I don't even know what to think about you people. You're horrible. Horrible. Leading people astray. You know, I almost want to come out and say that allegedly you're an agent, bro. You're working for an alphabet agency to confuse people. Put them right there on the edge where they're believing it. And, oh, yeah, rah, 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 rah. Let's hang out with David and Bonnie. And you never get anywhere. Why do I say this? I joined the Texas State Assembly in 2019. I didn't join it because of Anna Von Reitz. I had no idea who the hell Anna Von Reitz is. When I heard the name, I was like, I don't know, who's that? Oh, you don't know who Anna is? No. Never heard of her. Well, why are you here? Because listen to all you guys talk, and y'all want to turn Texas around, and I'm all for that. So yeah, I'm in the right place, right? Yeah, but you never heard of Anna? No. Well, you should go listen to Anna and read her stuff on her website. Okay. So I went and started reading, and I'm like, well, I know all this stuff. This is just American history, world history. Nothing new here. Been studying this stuff for a while now. So, what's the big deal? Oh, have you listened to our Monday night webinar? So I went and listened to that, and I'm like, oh my God. And I had a friend in the car listening. They're like, man, who is that? And I'm like, I don't know. She sounds like Hitler, doesn't she? That was my introduction to Anna Von Reitz. I'm like, okay, well, I don't need her to run Texas. So I can, do what I want. Well, come to find out, okay, I don't know how that goes. That's weird. Come to find out, lost my train of thought. What? What's up, girly girl? Anyway, come to find out, Anna was a grifter and a scammer, and of course, I left the Texas State Assembly. And at that time, they were talking about the bank, Anna's bank, or our bank. We need a physical location for a bank. Well, I was doing real estate at the time, and I went and found a physical location for a bank with, I think, 14 drive-throughs. Perfect. 2-story, big building, standalone. Perfect. Hey, Kim, I found the building. Oh, well, I'll pass that on to Anna. Okay. Finally, there's a bank. Is it operable? It takes money. It doesn't dispense money. Money goes in, money never comes out. Imagine that. Kind of like Anna Von Reitz. You send her money and you don't get anything back, but a bunch of bullshit on Monday nights. Right? As I said then, there will be no bank. There will be no credit, debit card, whatever the hell she wants to say. Do not send your foreign currency to Anna Von Reitz or Hunter or anybody involved in any assembly. Keep your own money and take it and do it, you exchange yourself. So get back into these assemblies. There's Destry Payne's assembly. Of course, I've spoken with Destry. Okay. There's some other assemblies in Florida on the East Coast. And I've spoken to those people. And God bless them, man. They have a good heart, great intentions, good people. They're never going to do it. It's just not going to happen. The de facto is not going to surrender. We have to go in and take it over, just like, the Democrats just did. Okay. They went in from the ground up and they took over everything. They got the cities because all the conservatives moved out of the city to the big suburbs. Here in Houston, they moved to the surrounding counties. They're not even in Harris County. I hear them bitch about Houston because they're still kind of connected to Houston. Yeah, Houston's a freaking cesspool. Hopefully John Whitmire can turn it around. But back to these assemblies, okay? How long have these assemblies been around? How many? Years. Name me one assembly in one state that is autonomously running the state. Anybody, please. I'm listening. Y'all can put it in the chat because it ain't happening. No assembly has stood up. Not one. And they're not going to. There will be a civil war in America before an assembly steps up and takes control. So you're spinning your wheels in these assemblies. You're spinning your wheels following David Lester Straight. You're probably going to go to jail or prison just like Bonnie Thomas did listening to David Lester Straight. You're going to get in trouble. So there you go. He's a scammer. David Straight's a scammer. Bonnie Thomas is a scammer. If y'all think this paperwork has some magic bullet attached to it when you file it into a court, go look at Bonnie Thomas's record. Read the record because the record is the only thing that matters, folks. Obviously, I know what I'm talking about. I'm able to spit this stuff out without having to go open up a book. So this whole habeas thing, scam, sham, not going anywhere, don't support it. I wouldn't support Bonnie or David Lester Straight if I were you guys. Sad to say, she hasn't snapped because I'm sure, David's, maxing her out on her commissary. And I'm sure she'd be able to get whatever she wants while he's off, grifting everybody, making tons of freaking money. Doing the latest David Straight snake oil, whatever that is, whatever it looks like. Now it's the Freeman bot. It was the Republic of Texas until he ran that in the ground and pretty much decimated the Republic of Texas. I don't think it's going to recover. I don't think it should recover. I think they should rebrand and start over and try to take over something that they could actually maintain and possibly take over, and not this huge stretch of land that includes Texas, New Mexico, Colorado, up into Wyoming. Really? Texas can't even deal with the southern border, and like y'all want to come take over Texas and New Mexico and Colorado and part of Wyoming? Really? Seriously? And y'all let David Straight come in and just destroy your Republic of Texas? So how are you going to maintain a border? I mean, it's ludicrous what these people think or believe that they can change through some paperwork or amassing more people. It's not going to happen. It's just not. So all of you out there, Mickey clan, I'm calling you out, Mickey. Why am I calling you out? Because, Ann and I, Ann LaFleur and I, we do have a business relationship. We also have a friendship. And when you follow grifters, you promote grifters, it has a reflection on your associates. You happen to be an associate of Ann LaFleur via Bonds for the Win. Yet you're out there, you're chasing this $21 trillion scam that just put out there. Now you're chasing David Lester Straight and his little bullshit affidavit of truths. If you're not listening, Mickey, or if any one of Mickey's friends or family are listening, man, go slap her and wake her the fuck up. I can't be any clearer. You're going to start to lose associations with people, Mickey, following scammers, promoting fraudulent stuff that I've proven fraudulent. There's no doubt it's 100% fraudulent. I just broke down the whole Bonnie Thomas thing, the latest David Straight scam. Now it's the habeas. It was a prayer service for Bonnie last time. Remember, they were going to hold it Friday between 6 and 7 or 5 or 6 or something. Okay, that means Bonnie had that phone for that hour in the day room. Okay, she had to let everybody know, if she lives in a cell block or a dormitory, that phone, I have to have it at this time. So, if Bubba and Tyrone come up, man, they need that phone. You know what time it is. Y'all have it. I'll go sit down somewhere and shut the fuck up. I ain't got no problem with that. So, and for those of you who don't know, the women's prison system in Texas is always in the top 5 of United States another email from them. Learn about equity and discharge. Stay away from David Lester Straight and Bonnie Thomas. All I can tell you guys. If you know anybody fucking with them, tell them stop. They don't believe you. Just say, hey, Christmas just rolled around the corner. Next Christmas, I'm going to call you up and I'm going to see if you've moved any further ahead utilizing David Straight's paperwork, processes, fees, offers, and you won't be. You know why? Because all those people they've been teaching for the past 2-3 years, where are they? Shouldn't they be like free? Right? Are they not? Should they like be running their own state? They're not. David Lester Straight's a scammer. He's a liar. He's a thief. He's a grifter. He's an opportunist. Tells a great story. Great storyteller. Sadly, he's telling stories to get to your pocketbook, your bank account. That's all he cares about. He doesn't care about you. You're just a stepping stone to fame and fortune for David Lester Straight. So if you want to lay down and be a rock, be a stepping stone, knock yourself out. Me personally, I'm going to vet everybody. And when I find fraud, I'm going to expose it. David Lester Straight and Bonnie Thomas. Thank you for watching the High Noon Show. I've got things to do today, so I got to go, baby. I've been on here long enough. Hit y'all with all kind of stuff. This was a good video. Hadn't done one in a while, so it was nice to get a little bit of the congestion off my chest. And I actually woke up and was like, man, I don't have anything to do today. Man, isn't this glorious? What a wonderful feeling. So now I'm going to tidy everything up and go do my day and hit the gym as I want to do. Because I think I'm going to compete in a bodybuilding contest very soon. I could reach out and find some sponsors. Thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, leave a comment below. TheFearlessFloydShow@yahoo.com is my email. TheFearlessFloydShow.com is my website. Yeah, of course, you don't see the holiday background that I usually have, but the holiday deals are still good till the 15th. So you want to plug into one of those deals, go grab them while they're still hot to trot, folks. After the 15th, they are going away and prices will go back to their regularly scheduled programming. You know, when you like my videos, it changes the algorithm in your feed. So you get videos that are similar to mine, have the same keywords that I put in, embed into all of my videos. Got a text, so I'll deal with that in a minute. So anyway, thank you guys. Yeah, you're welcome, Hybrid Man. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you, Chet's Jug, Zane Duggar or Duggar, the Inner Mounting Flame. Thank you for joining us and participating. Kimberly Rice, thank you. Jobby. If you won the sweepstakes to go to the class, or basically if you entered, you won, and you didn't make it to class, or if you paid for class and didn't make it to class, email me, thefearlessfloydshow@yahoo.com. Okay. Just tell me a little bit, subject matter, put whatever class, and tell me a little bit. And that way, I have to add you guys in Telegram. So you're going to have to join Telegram. If you want to just don't do the email, go to Telegram, The Fearless Floyd Show. When you get in there, click on the top, go to members, click on me, direct message me. Tell me to add you to the 101 class that you were supposed to take on the 9th. I still have the roster right here at my fingertips, so I can glance at it and I can add you to the 101 group. The videos have already been uploaded, or the video has been uploaded. It is a 5-hour video. Yeah. All the chat is in there as well. So all that good stuff that y'all are passing back and forth that I wasn't able to keep up with, and that's available as well. For everybody who did attend class and those of you who are going to attend class, thank you everybody for participating in that. I had fun doing it, and it was kind of my end of the year, that's the last thing I got to do. So I got that out of the way. So thank you again, everybody, for participating. Thank you everybody for entering. And it's, I'm just happy to be able to give that away to you guys. I'm just happy to be in that blessed position through divinity. All right. I will catch you guys in the next video. I have no idea when I'll do another live.